So Nick Shook just released an article on his all under 25 team, and in today's video, I thought I'd give a raw reaction to it and just simply give my thoughts. I have not seen the article yet, but I have made my own under 25 list to compare with them, so we'll see how both of these stack up against each other. But we're currently in what's considered the dead part of the offseason, so we're trying to put out as much content as we can for you guys. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. I will try to put out more article reactions throughout the offseason. So what you guys can do is follow us on our socials, which we will leave down in the description, and DM us any articles that you want to see us react to. We want to get you guys involved. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So here we go. I finally have the article up, and I can already see the headline: Lamar Jackson leads NFL's rising stars. So we know who his QB is going to be, and it is Lamar. I'd agree with that. I think Josh Allen is 25, and it says here to be eligible, players must be younger than 25 years old on September 9th, the day the season kicks off. So there is a specific criteria that he's going with. But I agree with Lamar. Justin Herbert could have been an option, and he has a claim to it, but only 1 year under his belt, and Lamar Jackson has an MVP, one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in football. So Lamar Jackson does make sense to me. Moving on to the running backs, Jonathan Taylor. Okay, that's interesting. I had Saquon Barkley. Oh, so he went with Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs, and no Saquon Barkley unless he has a third running back. No, he doesn't. That's very interesting. I know it was definitely because of injuries, but in my opinion, I think at the end of the year, we are still going to be regarding Saquon Barkley as a top 5 running back, knocking on the door of top 3. So this does surprise me. However, Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Taylor would have been the next 2 on my list. James Robinson also should be in the conversation. So it's not horrible, but I definitely would have included Saquon, but I think he's definitely factoring injuries into it. So running back, that is the first miss. Wide receiver, you went AJ Brown, Justin Jefferson, and DK Metcalf. Those 3 I agree with 100%. I like how he put DK Metcalf as the flex, because picking between these 3, frankly, is super tough. Wide receiver rankings in general are always tough, but I think he nailed it here. AJ Brown, already a top 10 receiver in my book. Just a very well-rounded guy. He's a beast, as he says in this first sentence here. Justin Jefferson had an amazing rookie season, and I think he will build upon it as Minnesota's wide receiver 1 going into next year. And he's only 22, which is incredible. Like, he's going to be amazing. And then DK Metcalf, what is there to say about DK Metcalf? Just an incredible physical specimen. I'll just put it like that. He definitely slid a lot in the draft. People had their concerns, but I think he's put those doubts to rest. The only flaw with DK Metcalf, in my opinion, is drops, but I think that will improve over time. He's only 23, so a lot of young talent at receiver. At tight end, I went with TJ Hawkinson, mainly because there wasn't very many options for me to pick from, and he did the same. He went with TJ Hawkinson, mainly because tight ends take just a longer time to develop, so it's really hard to find a premium tight end at say 23, 22, 24 even. Kyle Pitts will be on this maybe next season, but I think TJ Hawkinson definitely is the safe option as of right now. Moving on to offensive tackle, we got Mekhi Becton and Tristan Wirfs. Mekhi Becton is just a giant. 6'7", 363 pounds. My only concern with Mekhi Becton is, of course, injuries. Hoping he can stay on the field, but I think the Jets made the right selection. He will be, a cornerstone on that offensive line, only 22 years old. And Tristan Wirfs had an amazing season as well, especially in the playoffs. He came up huge, and he was kind of that reason why the run game was as efficient as it was, why Tom Brady had so much time in the pocket. Tristan Wirfs was huge for that. So I remember the Niners traded up one spot, or traded back one spot with the Bucks so that they could select Tristan Wirfs, and I think that trade is paying dividends for them right now. Moving on to the guard spots, we got Mike Onwenu and Damian Lewis. I do agree with Onwenu. Only a 6th round pick. That is a massive steal for New England, but He was great. He was great this year. New England is just great at developing offensive linemen, so I'm not surprised there. However, Damian Lewis is pretty interesting. I put Chris Lindstrom because here's the thing. I haven't seen too much of Damian Lewis, but from what I've been hearing, apparently he's a revelation, as he says here. But I think Chris Lindstrom was the pick for me just because I saw him his rookie year. He improved upon his rookie year this year. He's been on a steady trajectory. Damian Lewis, to me, it's acceptable, mainly because I haven't really seen him all that much. If there's any Seahawks fans watching this video, let me know what to look for with Damian Lewis, because as a Niner fan, I should have done my scouting on him, but I just haven't seen him play as much as I have Chris Lindstrom. So I went with Lindstrom. He went with Lewis. I'm not mad at it. Eric McCoy at center, I agree with that. I really don't know who else could have taken that spot. All 35 games he started. He was great in 2020. 15 total pressures and 1 sack on nearly 700 pass blocking snaps. That is incredible. I think Eric McCoy is definitely the pick at center. Moving on to defense, though. He has Nick Bosa as his edge rusher. Okay. I like the Bosa respect. But the thing is, if you're going to include Bosa on here, I would have included Saquon at running back. Both of these guys suffered torn ACLs. Both of these guys are coming off dominant seasons. Saquon is coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons and an offensive rookie of the year. Nick Bosa is coming off one of the most dominant defensive rookie seasons ever. So I like having Bosa here, but the logic is kind of falling through here if you're not going to include Saquon Barkley. I wonder who he had as his second edge rusher, because for me, it was between Brian Burns and Chase Young. He went with Chase Young. This was actually the toughest for me to pick, just because I think Chase Young is going to mold into easily a top 3 edge rusher, arguably the best edge rusher in the NFL in a few years. But I really think Brian Burns is seriously going to break out this year. So I went with Chase Young, mainly because of potential. But if you wanted to go Brian Burns, I would not be mad at it at all, because I definitely support Brian Burns and I think he's going to have a great year. But Nick Bosa and Chase Young were my picks, so I agree with both of these. I'm just confused why he put Bosa and not Saquon, if that makes sense. But we're going to move on to, I'm assuming, linebacker, or no, interior defensive line. We got Quinnen Williams and we got Jeffrey Simmons. Both of those I agree with. Jeffrey Simmons is a guy that I've been supporting since before the 2020 season even started, when he was coming off that injury. I've always thought he was underrated. And he says here Simmons has yet to become a household name, but he's trending toward it. I definitely agree with that 100%. That's probably one of my favorite picks that he put on here. Quinnen Williams, he is a year away from being an absolute monster. He showed a lot of potential last year. He's just got to remain healthy. That's all it is. And I think Robert Saleh will unlock his potential. I think he can be great in that system. So I like both picks with Quinnen Williams and Jeffrey Simmons. And now I think we're heading to linebacker. There we go. And let's just start it off with the best linebacker in the NFL, Fred Warner. Look at this. The only linebacker to make Next Gen Stats' ranking of the top 10 coverage defenders of last year. As a linebacker, going against corners, going against safeties, a linebacker made it. That's incredible. Fred Warner is an absolute beast. He definitely deserves a spot on here. But here's the thing. We got another toss-up. Just like with edge, with that second linebacker spot, we got Roquan Smith or we have Devin White. I went with Devin White, but I understand why people would go with Roquan Smith. Both are top 5 linebackers in my book. Let's see. Okay, he went with Roquan Smith. And he does acknowledge Devin White. That's fine by me. I went with Devin White. His playoff performance was just absolutely incredible. He showed up in big moments. Roquan Smith hasn't had that big moment that Devin White has had, but he does have a larger body of work, as he says. a better guy in coverage. But I do like Devin White. He's more clutch. And really their skill set is kind of similar. Although I do believe in Devin White's potential a little bit more than Roquan Smith, but I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it at all. And I can already see cornerback. He has Jair Alexander. That was a lock. That was an absolute lock. Definitely a top 3 corner, in my opinion, right now. I would go Ramsey. Trey White, Jair Alexander. I think that's fair. Gilmore at 4. But Jair Alexander he's a beast. You can't throw on him. You can't throw on him. The second corner spot is going to be interesting. I went with Marlon Humphrey. Denzel Ward. Wow. Okay, I'm going to be honest. That's a name that I didn't even consider. And I'm only realizing it right now. That's a good pick. I can't knock on it. I would have went Humphrey still. Because here's the thing. Humphrey can stay on the field. Denzel Ward's been hurt. He's a great corner. Don't get me wrong. Denzel Ward is a beast. And I hope he gets a contract. But Marlon Humphrey is more consistent. He's just the guy I'd pick. Because if you're going to take health into it, now my logic is kind of falling through. Because I have Saquon and Bosa on there. And I talk about, injuries shouldn't really matter all too much. I'm gonna back down on Humphrey here. I'm gonna stick with Humphrey. I do appreciate having Denzel Ward on there, though. I'm not mad at that at all. Moving on to the safeties, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm hoping he has Jesse Bates on here. He does. Okay, that's good. Minkah Fitzpatrick and Jesse Bates, I agree with both. In my opinion, Jesse Bates is the most well-rounded safety and arguably the best safety in the entire NFL. I think he's an absolute beast, and he's going to have a solid career. Minkah Fitzpatrick, that move to the Steelers really helped him out. I do kind of envision scenarios where he stays with the Dolphins. That defense would be absolutely insane if he stays with the Dolphins and really trusts in them. But I think the move to the Steelers definitely helped him out a lot. I agree with both of these picks. I'm not mad at either. And he has a flex for defense as well. L'Jarius Sneed. I like it. L'Jarius Sneed is definitely underrated. I think he'll have a great second season. He was under the radar all of last year. I never really heard anyone truly mention his name as a household name. But he did his thing. So I like the move to put L'Jarius Sneed on this list and give him a shout out. But you also could have went with Marlon Humphrey in this flex spot. But special teams. This, I didn't do special teams, but let's see what he put. Rodrigo Blankenship, shout out to Hot Rod. Jake Bailey, the punter for the Patriots. And Deontay Harris as his return guy. I'm not mad at any of that. Frankly, I just didn't do special teams. I didn't do my research on that area. But hey, we care about special teams over here. So shout out to these guys. But that'll do it. Overall, I think Nick Shook did a good job. Most of these I agree with. Of course, health is something that we kind of differed on. But overall, shout out to Nick Shook. I like this article, and I think he did a great job with these picks. I know he put some time into it, just as I put my time into this video. But if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe once again. And we're going to leave the socials down in the description. So hit us up with any articles that you want us to react to, and we will make sure that we do it. We are very active on our socials. So make sure you do that. I'm Shrikar Rajendran of the Cold Hard Truth podcast, signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.